Trobe Gross, who's a geologist on our faculty here at Colorado College, and asked him if he would kind of proofread it and see if I'd made any serious geological boo-boos. Then I had George Marler and some other person in the park kind of proofread it for general grammatical correctness. And then the Park Service contracted with a printer in Billings, Montana to do the initial print job. And so I took the manuscript. I remember Dave Beal loaned me his old black panel Park Service truck, which was a real relic. And I took off early one morning, and the roads were ice glazed all the way to Billings. I drove just like I was on a skating rink. And I got to Billings sometime in the afternoon, met with the printer, left the manuscript with him to peruse and check again for style and where to insert the illustrations, etc. And I spent that night with Elmer Anderson, Elmer was a fellow naturalist from the Park Service who was teaching at the university there in Billings. So Elmer and I spent an evening kind of reminiscing about our experiences in the park, and then the next morning I checked back with the printer, and everything was acceptable, photocopy ready, and the Park Service made a contract with him, I think, to print initially. It's either 3,000 or 5,000 copies, I forget which. And then I headed back to Mammoth and finished up the winter season with a reassignment to Canyon for the following summer. Well, we opened the station there at Canyon, I think sometime in May, and the book was ready and on sale, $1 a copy. And the title on the first printing was Yellowstone's Living Geology, and then underneath it said Earthquake. And that went through 2 or 3 printings to my knowledge. Yes, Eleanor? Yeah, she says 2 at the most. And then they put a second printing out and changed the title with a great big earthquake exclamation mark or some such thing on it. And it was sold there in the park for a year or 2 afterwards. I forget just how long. Well, at least until the United States Geological Survey came in and made their exhaustive survey and came out with a very detailed report. Well, we moved back into our old quarters at Canyon. I was the head naturalist there at Canyon, and my staff consisted of George Downing and Walt and Eleanor Harriman. Walt Harriman. And Rep Logal had then moved, Rep Logal had been the head naturalist, and he had moved on to Mammoth. And I think we had a couple of other seasonals, probably. I can't remember their names right now. Our program consisted again of evening campfire talks. We had an illustrated slide talk now in the museum, automated. That was the first one in Yellowstone, I believe. Yeah, that was their experimental first attempt at automation for a slide program. And it would work, and then occasionally it wouldn't work, and there were a lot of bugs in it originally, but I think eventually they got it all ironed out. The season was a bit frustrating because we had a new chief park naturalist who wanted to change everything, by golly, John Good by name. And John issued an order from headquarters that said for evening campfire programs we could no longer have a master of ceremonies. One man had to do everything. So that meant we had to draft somebody from the audience to be willing to operate the slide projector. And the speaker that evening had to lead the singing, the group singing, and light the campfire, give all the preliminaries, and then do the talk on top of that. At these evening campfire programs, we now had sound equipment, and Eleanor just reminding me that that National Park song album was in production then. And I think it was done by Disney, if I remember correctly. And we'd play that every evening with the volume turned up way high, and those songs would float out over the whole community. We drum up business for our evening programs. The summer was rather uneventful. I remember one thing that happened. I came home, I think it was one noon, and all of a sudden I could see smoke and fire right behind our quarters, and I ran back, and by gosh, we had a fire going there. It was covered about, maybe 25 square feet, and it was burning briskly, and I got a call in real quick to the fire department there at Canyon, and a bunch of us went to work with brooms and tried to put it out. And after we did, we found a trail of kitchen matches leading all through the woods there and right up to the burn. And it turned out that Bob Howe's boys had been playing with matches and I guess had intentionally or accidentally set the fire. So that was a bit of excitement that season. Oh gosh, what else, Eleanor? Can you help? Well, toward the end of the season, we were again thinking about packing up and heading home, and somebody came up with the idea of having a demotion party for me, because to move from my winter position as the GS-11, I had, or 11 or 12, I had to drop back to a GS-5, which meant a 6 or 7 pay grade drop, and I think this had never happened supposedly in the history of the Park Service. Everybody had promotion parties, but nobody had ever, as far as we knew, had a demotion party. So the Harriman and Downing and team all planned this demotion party, and they took a buffalo turd, a big buffalo chip, and sprayed it with silver paint, and put a rope on it so I could hang it around my neck. It's still hanging down in our basement, incidentally.
Got a shield.
Yeah, and a shield with it, and it was for conspicuous gallantry in the new Yellowstone, I think was the citation. So we finished out the season with this big demotion party. We did quit, I think, a week or 10 days early that last summer, and packed up all of you kids in our, I forget which vehicle we're driving that time, but anyway, we decided to go up to Glacier National Park. And we went up through Montana, stopped in Helena and visited Charlie Russell's old homestead, and went to Banff and Lake Louise, and you kids rode a snowmobile, I think, out on the Columbia ice fields, if I remember right. And we had really a very pleasant trip and a chance to see, for all of you, to see another national park. In fact, I talked to the chief naturalist there who had worked in Yellowstone and asked if he would entertain a transfer from me. I was thinking, I was getting kind of tired of working in Yellowstone and thought perhaps a season in Glacier would provide a change. Somehow we never followed through on that. Today is the 3rd of June, and as far as Mother and I can tell, we've sort of wound up what we can remember about those years in the park. And I'm going to stop the tape here and then ask Nancy, Judy, Dennis, Susan, the cousins, and so on to please fill in with any outstanding memories they have of their time in the park. And then I'll try and sift through all of these tapes and come up with some sort of a story that I'll pass out to all of you.